Sonja, thank you so much for the time. I honestly, it is a genuine honor to be speaking with you today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I mean this when I say it. I feel as though I'm speaking to Canadian royalty. So thank you. From
Oh, well. Okay, I can't knight you, but if I could, I
I appreciate that. And I
would. Okay.
absolutely loved Better Days. What was it that made you excited
Mhm.
to step into the role?
It was the writing. It's, that Joan created this fantastic, strange character who went here, there, and everywhere. And it was demanding and a little bit intimidating, thinking, how the hell am I going to pull this off? Because it's, every single scene and she's carrying this, and there's so many sort of turns in it. So I thought, okay, I would love to take this on and talking to Joan, but not sure if it's going to work. So, but that's always kind of the most fun sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's one of the things I love about this film is the tone is so like it shifts between tones so beautifully and so well. There's like an irreverent sort of dark humor, but there's also this very serious gravitas about this character. What was it like for you to step into her shoes? How do you prepare for that?
You prepare very thoroughly because, and a lot in advance. Unfortunately, I had a couple of months heads up on because it's, was a pretty, down and dirty, you hit the ground running film, shoot. So I kind of had to be prepared to come on set and, you know, be where I needed to be. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, this is a really complicated character and story in a lot of ways, even though the moment feels so honest and natural. Like this is something that happens to so many people,
Mhm.
but this character is so filled with grief. And I was wondering for you, in your experiences and with this character, what is it about grief that makes it so complex and difficult to communicate how you're feeling? Because that's so true for this particular character.
I think grief is it's tricky because grief is very obviously personal and it's very private, and we all kind of go through that. We can't avoid that in our lives. And I'm certainly at the point in my life where it's my parents have gone, my dad died in my home, my mother died in my home, you know, friends now, I'm old enough that friends now are starting to have things go wrong with them, and or people lose their partners, and it's just it is there. But I've also been fascinated with the subject of it just as a general thing, because I kind of complained in a way, felt that we have a need to talk about it more, to talk about our mortality and around us, and to have some bit more of a system that we can help us through that, because we're all in so much denial on this stuff and people avoid it like crazy. So in a way, to do a movie like this where Joan wrote a character that is so kind of kind of not crazy, but in a way who's unafraid to kind of go to really kind of weird places. I think it's important to kind of give people permission for that process, if that's what works for them, because we've gotten very limited and there's very few guidelines anymore for us, in that arena, you know.
And that's one of the things I think is so interesting about this is that um, forgive me, I forget your character's name. It's
Oh,
what's
gee. Kate.
Kate.
Kate. Yeah.
So in Kate's journey, we see everybody else trying to solve the problem in different ways, and they
Hmm.
all think they know what she needs, or she just
Hmm.
needs to get back out there, or
Hmm.
or
you have a drink or do all these things.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to know what that she needs, but
Mhm.
no one actually does. And
No, no one knows what they do, but we as a just a society, we're so uncomfortable around it.
yeah,
We're so uncomfortable around death or mortality or grief that we don't want to deal with people who are in that. It's like, can you just move along because it's uncomfortable
yeah,
and it's making me uncomfortable. So it's if you could just kind of take care of this because we're incapable. We don't have a roadmap anymore for that. And I do believe that there were times, and maybe still in some cultures there's some processes that recognize that, but a lot of us don't go to church anymore or have those kind of structures or formalized processes. So we're kind of left to our own devices, to figure our way through it. And it's uncomfortable and doesn't follow predictable patterns. And you know, and so to actually give someone the space that they need is very difficult because, it's like people's lives, they want to carry on. They don't want to see it, right?
yeah. There's a sense that it's sort of like, well, I just want this to go away for
Yeah,
these characters. Just oh, just let's just deal with it and move on.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I don't think it ever really works like that in life. It's such a process. I mean, I can miss someone today that, oh, I wish they were there. It's like, oh, damn, I would like to talk to them. And they died, 10 years ago. Those losses are still there, right?
yeah.
But you can't live. I mean, no one can live in a state of high grief. There has to be some process because you can't survive that, right? So we have to find our way through that,
Well,
right?
and that brings up the question I wanted to ask because there's a fascinating line in the film, and I think in so many films it would have been meant as sort of a way to wrap up the emotion, but it says there, one of the teens says, "There's always a better day. You only have to wait around for it." But there's a
Hmm.
sense of irony when it's said,
Hmm.
and I wanted to hear what you thought about that particular line and the way it's phrased.
But you're saying sort of, is there? And then the character talks about, is there? And what if now this is the best time of my life and I'm not even recognizing it? Like we can't we don't see ourselves as we are. You go, was that it? And at my point in my stage in life, I'm thinking, I know I'm not going to get stronger or, you know, more conventionally beautiful or whatever the hell that is. So there are other ways, like it's kind of going in one direction, and I'm not going to all of a sudden win the 100-meter dash, that's not going to happen. So, but I still don't know the answer to that. Are there still better days? And how is that defined? Like, what is better? Maybe when we get older, I don't know. Is there irony in that? That then you have more appreciation? I don't know. Because I'm still in a flux in myself, my own life, trying to figure that out too. Because otherwise, you're just going to be bummed out,
Yeah.
right? You're going to be bummed out because you're going, there's a slippery slope, and I'm starting to go coast down it. So surely, I don't think that is the answer. And I'm not a big believer in people in regret personally. You just say, oh, I wish I had done such and so, or that was, the best time of my life. I really hope that life keeps revealing itself, but I think it's fair in the film for her to question, there will be better days, will there?
Yeah.
That's a legitimate question, you know
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? It's funny because the outside of your character, the energy of this film, a lot of the energy comes from the youth.
Yeah,
Comes
yeah,
from that trio. I think there's only three of them, but
yeah.
they're bouncing around the screen, and they're actually in some ways the wisest characters in
Hmm.
the story. And I was wondering because what you see is as these other characters, whether it's Kate's kids or Kate's friend, sort of lost in some ways their youthful zeal of life.
Yeah,
So I
that's
was,
true, actually. Yeah.
why is that such a battle? Why is that not something we can that we give away, I should say, not that we necessarily have to lose it,
Yeah,
but give away.
yeah. It's true. I hadn't thought of that, but it's true. Like her friend is just ready to compromise. Alex is ready to compromise. She's rather have something than nothing. Doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah,
And we all know that one, right? Do you compromise because I don't want to be alone? Like, dear God, something's better than nothing. Is it? You know? And and even with Kate's grown up kids, they kind of seem kind of old before their time.
yeah,
Like, just and I I'm not sure if that's a true reflection, but there is more weight on people now, I think, on younger people, and to get down and get things happening because then when I grew up, I was the boomer generation, everything was possible, right? We were told anything was possible, the world was open, and all these opportunities were coming up, all the time, right? It was kind of a growth period. So I don't think maybe Joan captured some of that kind of old before your time with her kids, because she's younger than her kids, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I and I will say, since you mentioned it, that funeral scene may be one of the most cringy things. It, it's like it's so upsetting to watch, but like in a good way. Like I mean that
Yeah.
anyway. But I'm just watching like, oh, stop,
Stop,
stop.
please stop. Oh dear. Oh.
It's honestly, it's such a wonderful piece, and
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was really fun to do. Really fun. I'm glad it can be out there because I think it can touch people in different ways. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's something that none of us can escape. So, and I think Joan had some very interesting and intelligent thoughts on that process and questions really too. Yeah.
yeah, I love the way that that Kate, you have these scenes where she's just sitting there talking to the camera,
Hmm.
because that in some ways those moments have such power. Like the writing is so strong for this particular
Yeah.
film, and it adds such context to the things going on, and I just think it works really, really well.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite things is that, like, what is the right amount of grief?
Yes. Oh,
Like,
yes.
that's like a brilliant line. What is the right? Because people say, oh, you know, I have a friend who talked about someone who was at her husband's funeral and said, and she was carrying on, like screaming and crying. It's like, and my friend disapproved of her friend doing this. You going, but that was her husband of 30 years. Like, but that's not appropriate, like that's too much grief, and we are very judgmental
Yes.
about people and how they steer their way through those things, right? Oh, she should be over it by now. you know it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, should be over it, should be moving on. you know it's like, really, says who? Who knows, right?
Yeah, yeah, because all of these things that go on with Kate as it continues to go on, there are little mentions of, is this the right time, or one phrase I think you say beautifully, after the appropriate amount of time. But it's sort of like there
Yeah,
markers for this. Grief looks different for everybody. It's
yeah,
there's no this now you're at this level, now you're at this level. And it's so well explored, I think, in this particular.
yeah, I think so. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. Ah.
Appreciate that. Uh,
Yeah.
Sonia, honestly, the film is wonderful. What do you hope people take away from Better Days?
I'm hoping that it gives people who watch it some permission,
Mm,
or forgiveness, or not even forgiveness, acceptance of how they're or going through or have gone through their grieving their losses, because we all sustain those. And I'm hoping it gives, I had a friend who watched it and she said, I scream too, you know? And I thought, well, good. So for her to see that and going, and she, from the outside, has been through too much. She said she should be moving on. People are saying it should be, but it's like, I'm hoping it makes you feel better. That's okay. And then if you feel okay, what you're doing, then maybe you can heal and have some comfort, you know, in living your life. Because, you know, that's what we got. We got one life too, right? So if that is, I guess, helpful, or, and also if people can have a few laughs, because we have to laugh at ourselves too, you know, because it is kind of sad and funny at the same time, right?
Yeah, I can't remember a film recently that has taken its subject, like it's the subject of grief, so seriously, but also laughed with it
Mhm.
along the way. And I think
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks so much.
and thank you so
Okay.
much for your time, Sonia. I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
You
Have a
take
great
care.
day.
All
Thanks.
right. All the best. Thank you.